So before the Rugby Championship starts and the Southern Hemisphere giants go at it, I wanted to do my follow-up video on that England 36-man squad that I picked with Ollie from the Rugby Paper podcast. If you haven't seen that video, it's really good fun. We have a really good discussion about it. I'll link it up there. But these were the shortlist players we discussed, and just a little note here, and in the headline of the Rugby Paper talking about they need to pick overseas players. Jack Willis and Joe Marchant, they absolutely would be in the picture and probably in the final squad, but they're still not available. Is that problem going to get more and more? But that's a discussion for another day. So those are the players that we considered. I added a few in since that video you may have seen. We missed out Max Ajomo, who definitely needs to be considered because England are very short on centres. He needs to start more for Bath, and maybe he will because Redpath has had an operation, so he might get those starts. And also Billy Seller, the under-20s tight head, who probably would have been starting in the semi and final, but he got injured. Instead, Fazabong was in and was amazing. So I think both of those young guys need to be considered. A pocket for jaws in both sides because he can play loose head and tight head. We ended up with a squad something like this. I have changed it slightly. One change is I think Apoko for jaw needs to be in there in some sort of way to learn the ropes. I didn't really want to drop Baxter, Genge or Marler, so Apoko for jaw is kind of in there as a learning process and not in the official squad. You can kind of do what you want, to be honest, so I'm going with that one there. And like I said, adding in Seller there. And the centres, we've had an operation for Slade. So he may be back, he may not be back. So I've put a Jomo in there. I know Slade's a 13 and a Jomo's a 12. But then, of course, you've got Lawrence who can play 13 as well. So Dingwall, Freeman, Lawrence and a Jomo. So those are the changes to the squad. Like I said, if you want to see that video, please check it out. So let's go through the team that I think should open up against New Zealand. Can they get revenge? Here it is in the front row. Yes, I'm starting Theo Dan. It's a new looking front row. To be honest, I think we need to start looking towards the future. Jamie George, I'm not saying throw him out completely, but let's go for Dan. Let's go for Langdon. I think they are the two form hookers, the two best hookers. Yes, you're losing out on experience from Jamie George, but I think you've just got to start building to get to a special team, not just a good team, a team that actually win these games. You could play Jamie George. Let me know if you think I'm wrong there, but I'm going with it with Dan and Langdon. Baxter and Davison, I think a change up at tight head is absolutely needed. You've got to try something. I think Davison is probably the best bet at the moment whilst those youngsters start coming through. And Finn Baxter, sure you could start Marler, but I think Baxter did so well against New Zealand that he goes again with the explosive Genge coming off the bench. Is it big enough scrummaging unit? Maybe, maybe not, but I think that is the most exciting way to go with Genge off the bench, Baxter gaining experience. And am I too harsh on Will Stewart? I just don't think he's quite good enough at this level, so let's try the youngster of Fazabong on the bench. Is that a mistake? Maybe, but we've just got to try something different in the front row to gain that dominance that England once had again. Is it going to be right now? Maybe not, but I think building towards the future, that's the way I'm going to go. Very bold. Second rows are easy. Atoje and Martin had a brilliant tour in the summer, in the Northern Hemisphere summer that is, down to New Zealand, played really well, very strong, very physical, excellent line-out work, backed up by the physicality in the back row of Cunningham South. You could bring Ollie Chesham off the bench in the second row or the back row. Underhill and Earl, I think they carry on. They're our best options at the moment for sure. Jack Willis, like I said, probably would be in there, but he isn't available. The bigger mission there is Tom Curry, but I think he still needs to prove that he's back to his best. And in the meantime, I'd bring Ted Hill straight in as the replacement number 6. Number 8 replacement is probably Cunningham South or Ted Hill, so maybe a little light on number 8 because we haven't taken Don Brandt and Barbary. Is he quite up to speed? Well, maybe you throw him in there on the bench and see if he is. So that's one to discuss. But I think Ted Hill is so good. He's got to be in there. Those two sixes of Cunningham South and Ted Hill could be very, very devastating. Into the backs, and Alex Mitchell is easily our best 9. Who should be our backup? Well, Spencer kind of fluffed his lines in that tour to New Zealand. Should he be given another chance? Maybe. But if you want impact off the bench, Harry Randall is your man. Of course, the question marks on the kicking, but I think Mitchell and Randall, that scares teams. Marcus Smith, well, had plenty of doubts from people going into that New Zealand tour, came out of it looking certainly a lot better. Not everyone sold on him. I think he is the best 10 we've got. I think he's very creative, very exciting. If he can nail his basics and not get too excited sometimes, I think he is special, and I think he carries on as our best fly half. Who goes on the bench is a tough one. Let's see if Ford comes back in good form, so maybe he does come back in. But at the moment, I think we have Finn Smith on the bench there. So those are the half-backs. Centres is kind of tricky, but only really see one option here. Ollie Lawrence continuing at 12, who's been doing a good job, getting better. Is he the long-term 12? Still don't know, but he brings some power. And with Slade out at the moment, recovering from surgery, he may be back in time, but I think it's an excellent opportunity to bring in Tommy Freeman into 13. It's a much more physical and quicker centre partnership. Lawrence and Freeman, that can scare some people in attack and defence. Onto the wings, and let's go for the speed. Feiwabusu has been very good for England so far. Still plenty to prove, of course, but he's an absolute workhorse in off his wing, slipping out of tackles, big in defence as well. And let's give Ollie Slyholm a go. The absolute gas on the wing, so really, really dangerous in the back line. It's looking more exciting already, and then when you add in George Furbank at 15, I think you've got a seriously dangerous back line there that could scare any defence in the world, something we haven't really had for a while. And I think you need a 15 on the bench who can do the same sort of thing as Furbank. So I'm getting Joe Carpenter in there, who I think should have played against New Zealand but didn't. So let me know what you think of that team. That is the team that I would like to see take the field to try and get revenge against New Zealand. There's the shortlist from the previous video. Get stuck into those, all those comments below. Just before we start looking towards the Rugby Championship and those big Southern Hemisphere sides that the likes of England are going to face in the autumn. Pop all those comments below. Love to hear what you think, as always, and I'll catch you next time.